He grew up in a place where dreams were often traded for survival. Ethan knew how it felt to go to bed hungry, to wake up early and help his father fix broken things that other people threw away. But even when his hands were rough from work, his heart never stopped believing that someday he could be more than what the world thought of him. He met Claire on an ordinary afternoon. She was standing under the old acacia tree near the market. Her white dress fluttering against the wind, she smiled when he offered to help carry her groceries, and that moment changed everything. She was soft-spoken, graceful, and came from a family that lived on the hill, where houses were painted white and driveways were wide. He never imagined someone like her would even talk to him. But Claire did. Every day after her classes, she would sneak out just to see him. They'd sit by the riverbank, watching the water move slowly as the sun fell behind the trees. They talked about everything: how he wanted to study, how she dreamed of becoming a doctor, and how love maybe could exist even between two people from different worlds. He worked in a small repair shop by day, fixing broken radios and fans. At night, he read old books borrowed from the library. Claire would visit and bring him food her mother didn't know she took. She said it was their little secret, and for a time, it felt like love could conquer anything. But people talk. Her parents heard about Ethan, the boy with grease on his hands in a house made of wood. They didn't shout. They simply said no. No more meetings, no more dreams. They told her that love doesn't feed the table, that love without money is only an illusion. Claire cried, but her tears couldn't change their minds. They took her away to the city, away from the boy who had nothing but sincerity. Ethan stayed behind, carrying only the memory of her smile and the promise that someday he would be worthy of her. Days turned to weeks, and weeks into years. He worked harder than ever, fixing radios, welding broken metal, and studying every night under the weak glow of a lamp. He refused to let poverty define him. The world had taken everything from him, except the will to rise. Every time he felt tired, he remembered Claire not to mourn her, but to remind himself why he started. She was his reason, his quiet fuel, the heartbeat behind every sacrifice. Eventually, all that effort began to pay off. Ethan earned a scholarship to a university in the city, the same city where Claire now lived. He arrived there not as the poor boy people once pitied, but as a man determined to rebuild his life. City life was harsh, but he was harsher to himself. He studied by day, worked at night, and never complained. People admired his discipline, his humility, his hunger for change, and slowly doors began to open. Years passed. He graduated with honors and joined a construction company where his brilliance shone. From repairing broken radios, he was now designing buildings that touched the sky. He became someone people respected: quiet, kind, yet strong. One afternoon during a company event, he saw a familiar figure across the crowd. Claire. She wasn't the girl in white he remembered. She looked more mature now, graceful in her simplicity, yet her eyes, those same gentle eyes, still carried the warmth that once made him believe in love. For a while, they simply stared, both unsure what to say. She was the first to speak. "Ethan, is it really you?" He smiled faintly. "It's me." There were tears in her eyes. "You've changed." He shook his head. "Maybe I just became the man you once believed I could be." She bit her lip, her voice trembling. "I never stopped believing." From that moment, the distance that once separated them began to fade. They started talking again, at first cautiously, then freely. Claire confessed that she had never loved anyone else. She had followed her parents' wishes, but her heart never moved on. When her parents learned who Ethan had become, a respected engineer, admired by his peers, they felt the sting of shame. The same boy they once rejected was now the man their daughter truly deserved. One evening, Ethan visited their old town to pay respects to his late father. Claire followed him quietly. They stood together under the acacia tree, now bigger and older, the same place where it all began. She whispered, "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Ethan looked at her, his eyes soft with gratitude. We just took different paths, but they led us back here. She smiled through her tears. Do you still love me? He reached for her hand and said, I never stopped. That night, the stars seemed brighter than before, as if the universe itself was making up for lost time. Months later, they married not in a grand hall, but in their hometown, surrounded by people who once doubted them. Even Claire's parents stood quietly, humbled by the love that endured when pride did not. Together, they built a life not of wealth, but of meaning. Claire opened a small clinic for the poor, while Ethan established a workshop that gave jobs to young men who once thought they had no chance. Every evening, they would sit by the river bank, the same spot where they used to dream. Claire would rest her head on his shoulder and whisper, I'm proud of you. And he would smile, replying softly, I'm proud of us. The world that once tore them apart now watched them build something stronger, proof that love doesn't need to be easy, only true. And as the sun dipped behind the trees, Ethan looked at her and thought, some dreams aren't lost. They just take time to come home.